Too late now. Hello, welcome to the Chatting with Dr. Steve show. I'm your host, Dr. Steve. Anyways, today's guest is a remarkable person and has done almost every job in the wrestling industry, from selling tickets, ring announcing, managing, color commentating, composing entrance music, and yes, even a champion on 4 separate occasions. He helps write autobiographies for wrestlers. He's a New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. And just recently, he co created the first ever virtual wrestling convention, which ran successfully on May 2nd and 3rd. He is none other than Kenny Casanova. Welcome to the show, Kenny.
Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. That was quite an intro. I appreciate it. Did I do all that?
You did. Now that I've got it all out, we really don't need you anymore. They know what you did, so it's all good, right?
Good. Thank you so much. We'll see you again. Thanks.
Bye. No, seriously, that is one hell of a list that you got there. I mean, you started, how did you start in the wrestling industry?
Let's see. It goes way, way back, I guess, in 1988. I went to an indie show that I sold tickets for, and they let me go in the back and bring the gear back for the wrestlers, and also go to the after show. And it was run by Captain Lou Albano. And he let me meet everyone there. It was Colonel De Beers, Tony Atlas, Samoan SWAT team, all kinds of people were there. He kind of let me know that I could do it. Gave me kind of a secure from that area that was Binghamton, New York. And then a few years passed, and then I started looking for, a wrestling school that I could go to. Found one out in Elmira, New York.
DC Reynolds, who played Doink the Clown.
Sure, he was one of them. Yep, he's one of many.
You said one of the main things you were looking for is trying to find every comedy spot that you can learn. Why is that?
Well, most every comedy spot. I mean, I like it to be believable when I do comedy. So, in other words, if you were to look at two different guys that I would give the thumbs up or the thumbs down with for particular comedy spots today, I think like Orange Cassidy knows what he's doing. He's doing an awesome job when he does that kick spot. It's funny, but it's still believable. You could excuse it away as a commentator for being like a head game, a mind game type thing. But you can't really excuse like mind control, like the Darth Vader choke slam, the pinch the neck throat thing, and the guy sells it. When the other guy has to be in on the joke, I don't really like the spot that much. I'm still a little bit old school where I like it to be believable. But you'll probably also get to it. I also write books. Same thing in my books. I always try to go for the funny. I try to look for the punchline and do like an emotional roller coaster as people do in wrestling. You want kind of ups and downs, and sometimes humor is a good thing to drop in there to break some of the monotony of violence and to make stuff still fun. And there's the big lag. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I found now that you mentioned that, I found Kurt Angle did comedy well. There is.
Yeah, there's a big lag on my end.
Kurt Angle did comedy well. I mean, he was a serious wrestler, but you put him in a situation, and he just like treated it like it was real, and that's what worked really well for everybody.
Right.
Like
So Doink wasn't the only guy that trained me. He was also one of the main guys. There were a couple other people who would jump in. So TC Reynolds was probably the main guy. There were some other indie guys. There was a guy named John Diamond who I managed for a bit. But another thing that would happen in the USWF, and this was a small promotion that I worked for in Western New York, is the promoter. His name is Bob Bailey. He no longer promotes now. He did a little bit of New York State Athletic Commission for a while, around a whole lot. Tom Brandy was there a whole bunch. An indie guy named King Kalua, who was a big name in training for quite a while, still wrestling out there in the Pennsylvania area. Steve Carino was kicking around. So there was quite a few names that came through that would teach little things, extra things. So I got a lot of little flavors from names early on within the first 6 months of when I was learning.
What do you think was the most important thing that you learned? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, sorry on that. So if we talk over each other a little bit, it's probably good because it'll make it sound better on the on the other people's end, so there isn't such a lag. But as far as important is concerned, psychology, timing was huge as a professional wrestling manager. Also
Psychology.
knowing, yeah, also knowing not to steal heat, which is something I think is super important, even for people out there today. I've watched, televised wrestling like Impact and even AEW, and from time to time, the people on the outside of the ring are stealing the attention from what's happening in the ring when it shouldn't happen. And granted, man, they might have an awesome spot or something to do, but there's an art form to waiting till it's your turn to do stuff and to grab the attention of the audience when it should be grabbed. And some people don't quite do that correctly, I think, today. Another thing I would chime in with that too is I'm really old school. I used to like foreign objects. I loved when George the Animal Steel would pull the brass knuckles or some kind of poker out of his tights and go to town on people. And that's another thing that's kind of a lost art form as well. And someone today could really take a hold of something like that, get a brass knuckle, hide it through from the ref the whole time, work up the audience, from behind and stuff. So they see the brass knuckles on his back, but it's the only guy that can't see it as a ref, and the audience really gets behind it. And they could make that gimmick new again because I haven't seen it in so long. So that's the kind of stuff that we learned back then. This was early 90s, early to mid 90s, and that was still kind of a big thing. They were still doing some of that, but it's kind of gone now, and I missed it.
Yeah, that's I managed just for a little bit, and I kind of went the old school way as well. I kind of enjoy that. I like the storytelling. I like the kayfabe. Even during breaks, the audience hated me. I mean, it's just the way it was. And
Cool,
about stealing heat, you're correct.
Yes.
My job was just to make sure that everyone hated either me or my guy, whether they're like, great or not. And then this way, at the end, right, the result, the payoff is a lot better if we lose because we're such scumbags.
Right, and that's the difference between old school and new school. Back in the day, the bad guys were eventually supposed to lose, and then when the NWO came around, and the Attitude Era, it was cool to be bad, and you shouldn't always lose. And then they would sell merchandise, had some part of that too. So if they had lost some matches, they thought they weren't going to sell as much merchandise, so let's always put the bad guy over. So I kind of like the old school days where bad guys would win. The good guys would chase the bad guys, and eventually the good guys would prevail, Not as much so much today. Now it's kind of 50-50 booking, and that's okay. That's what it's changed to. And some of that's good. But I do think if we're going to talk a minute on today's product, it would be cool to make a new superstar, a new big name, and really push the guy and stay away from the 50-50 stuff that you see on TV. But that's from the old guy's perspective here.
No, it's true. We haven't had one of those in a long time. Goldberg was like totally pushed out, and that succeeded really, really well.
Right.
But sadly, now he can never lose. So.
Yeah. So quite the lag.
Yeah, because it is quite the lag. I'm sorry. I got some low bars here. We're in my little evil dungeon here. It was good before you came on. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's pretty cool. So, as a manager, right? When I was reading your Wikipedia, you said that your job was not just to go out there and cheat, but your job was to help people with strategy and learn psychology and timing and whatnot.
Sure, I think that's a big thing. Quite often, a manager been in it for a while and knew a little bit. Sometimes they give you to a green guy. I got a lot of green guys that I would, manage for. And they would say, hey, help this guy with this, promoter might tell me to do this or that to help a guy get over, and some of the old timers also like working with me because they had to work less. The manager could come and bump, or you could do some more comedy spots, so the Grizzled guys like working with me too. So early on, and I don't know if there's as much manager use in the indies as there were back in the early 90s or, 80s or there. So, let me think of an example of a green guy maybe I worked with that I helped. I was telling another guy this the other day I did an interview with, Aaron Casey, who went on to become, who was brand new out of Walter Kowalski's school, and a guy named Mike Sparta, who I was working for. Loved the kid because he had a great look to him. Back then, he looked almost like a young brunette Shawn Michaels kind of. He had like long hair, clean-cut baby face, he was really good in the ring, and he had that cool. So I worked a little with him, and we played around before shows. Like when they would sing the national anthem, I would challenge him to come behind the gorilla where the timekeeper and guys were getting ready.
He stole the show. He was put on to help the Miz, or Miz was supposed to help him, but he ended up just stealing everything. It was fantastic.
Yeah. So I don't know. You want to talk about book stuff or COVID con? What do you think? What's next on the agenda?
Yeah, totally. I've got a whole list of things to talk about. I just want to make it progress. Like a.
I think what's making
like a movie, right?
It's like an awkward lag that makes me think that there's nothing coming right now. So, do you think if I left the room and came right back in, would that fix the lag, or no?
You might be able to.
Should I try?
You might be able to. Yeah.
Cut a promo and I'll jump out and come right back in.
Oh, we can go. I can sing and dance and stuff.
All right, let me cut.
For sure. Okay, so that's Kenny Casanova. He's going to come back. He's having a little bit of a lag problem. So if it's kind of like when you're on life support and then they try and unplug you and then plug you back in to see if it works. Or is that computers? I'm not too sure which one. He's going to come back. But Kenny, he's going to talk about books. Like he actually ghostwrites plenty and plenty of books for wrestlers. And one of the first ones they did it was for Kamala to help him kickstart. Okay, he's back. Well,
I think there's less of a lag now. It looks like your mouth actually syncs up with your words.
Really?
Yeah, I hope so.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we're good now. That was the move. That was the move.
Yes. Like the shirt. I took over wrestling promotion.
All right.
At least I thought I did. It gave me a reason to be there and be a jerk. But anyways, back to you. There's an event that I'm interested in. You were managing King Kong Bundy one time, and him and his opponent broke the ring.
I actually made a lot of magazines at the time. That was for April something. I want to say 97, 98. I can't remember.
97.
Close to that. Figure out. Well, what we're going to do next is supposed to be this big battle royal where, everybody's supposed to get in the ring and throw everybody out. And I'm scrambling around backstage. And I said to guys, I was like, what if we do a reverse battle royal? Reverse battle royal. And they were like, reverse battle royal. I'm like, yeah, whoever jumps in the ring becomes the champion, because the ring was pretty much in shambles. The turn posts were pointing inwards, and it was just like there was a big pit in the middle of the ring. And so they said, okay, we'll do that. So they were all kind of running around and stuff, and everything got changed. And in the end, I think people were kind of making it into a hardcore match outside of the ring to make it seem believable that you try to get in the ring and get hit in the back with something. And eventually Iron Mike Sharp was there, and he said, screw this. And he jumped in the ring, and he wasn't spinning out of that. And then that picture of the ring collapsing, I think, was in some of the PWI magazines, which was pretty cool. So.
Way to go. Great idea to save the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did it much later. They did
a great idea.
An inverse battle royal or something like that in Impact Wrestling, but it was a number of years later, something like 2004, 2005, where they actually planned something like that. So it's pretty neat that we were forced to do it, and then eventually it became a real match.
Interesting is that you became women's champion, not in one promotion, but 3 separate promotions. Tell me about that.
That's right. One was and then Miss Patricia, who used to call herself the Meanie Babe for a while. She was Blue Meanie's manager. So for a time, it was just like a little gimmick that I was doing. I would offer to do it, and then the promoters would say, yes, let's do it. And I'd win it for a couple shows. I called myself Kendra Casanova, and I wore a wig, and I wore a green prom dress while I wrestled that I found at the Salvation Army that was flashy and shiny and real nice. So Kendrick, and it's almost what you would see if you remember when they did that Santino Marella thing, maybe a handful of years back. But mine was way before that. And it was a little bit of the idea of Andy Kaufman, fighting the girls, a little bit of that. But me pretty much in drag and trying to say that I was not Kenny Casanova, and I was actually a girl with a goatee wrestling for a title. So, so good fun.
That's brilliant. Oh, that is freaking brilliant. I mean, first when I saw the list of people you managed, I saw Kendra Casanova, and then that comment like, okay, is this your sister? Until I did more research and found out that okay, this makes more
Me
sense.
working. Yeah, it is pretty funny.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you had a sing off against Nikolai Volkov and the Honky Tonk Man, two separate occasions.
Yep. So I guess music kind of propelled my career later on outside of the ring. But yeah, I learned the Russian national anthem and I sang it, with Nikolai Volkov. And he had turned face at that time in WWF. So he sang God Bless America or something, And also, same thing with Honky Tonk Man. I don't really remember what I sang, but I did sing something. And then he was face. And, a lot of times the heel guys that were always heel in WWE were face on independence because people recognize them. And plus, they
Of
could sell
course.
more 8x10s and different things during intermission. So why not work face? So I lost on both occasions. But on top of that, what had happened really is a bunch of the wrestlers and myself would go to karaoke after shows. And I did, like you, I did all kinds of different impersonations, but I did weird stuff. Like I would do the Muppets singing, Grease songs, and I would do AC/DC singing a Tom Jones song, or just really ridiculous mashup kind of stuff. And they were like, "Hey, you know what you should do, brother? You should sing the wrestlers to the ring." So eventually, my gimmick turned from being kind of like a wannabe ladies' man to more of like a lounge lizard guy that would sing badly the theme songs for the wrestlers coming to the ring, and we would use a karaoke track. But I'd sing like Britney Spears, I'd sing Tom Jones, and just really bad stuff, Madonna, just stuff that would suck coming out of a guy's mouth, and people would boo. But what would happen after that is, come to find out, people wanted to book me to do karaoke parties. So I started getting emails and different, can you come do a karaoke party? And I didn't know how to karaoke DJ, but when you're waving money in front of my face, I had to learn. So I picked up a couple of the sound guys. You get a couple $100 a night is better than an indie manager pay. So the evolution to that became, I couldn't really take that many bookings on Fridays. And then that turned into, hey, we want to book you a couple times a week, for karaoke here and there and different people. It started to pull me out of my availability for wrestling gigs. And then on top of that, people said, we want you to do this at weddings. And weddings is a whole different ballpark.
Wow.
And as you know, probably a wedding DJ is somewhere in the area of maybe on a cheap hillbilly, redneck shotgun mullet-filled type wedding is like $700. But you could get up to, I made on a 1 weekend, I made $2,200 DJing, depending on what they want. And
Wow.
I've got really high-end gear and this and that. So I transitioned over to that. And then that pulled me even more out of my availability, and became a wedding DJ / mobile DJ, doing any kind of event you could see. But that pulled me a little bit away from the the more national and the international potential for Spotlight, made me more regional, because really I can't go do a wedding out Florida, or they're not going to fly me in, they'll just find another wedding DJ in Florida. But I wanted to stay in the wrestling, and then I started writing books, and then that helped me keep going with my career as Kenny Casanova, wrestling manager, and now author, and there it is.
Okay, before we get in your books, we got a person I know from the UK. He says my favorite wrestler from the 70s was in the UK was Big Daddy.
Big Daddy's the man.
You know anything about Big Daddy?
Yeah, Big Daddy was the big man. He was big time. He was the Hulk Hogan of UK for many years, as was Otto Wanz in Germany,
Wow.
perhaps. Yeah. So we've talked about him some in our books too, recently. A number of different guys that I've worked with. I want to say, no, I actually can't tell. I'm thinking more Otto Wanz now. He worked a lot with Vader, so I'm crossing that. That's Germany. But yeah, I wrote Kamala's book first. What happened was Kamala contacted me, and he told me that he had lost both legs to diabetes after I'd been trying to hunt him down a little bit. I played Kimchi a number of times for him. on the independent scene.
Was that
And
on television?
not on WWE, but on various tapes and different things. You could probably find some. But I never played for
Well, who did
WWE.
Kimchi first? Who did Kimchi
Kimchi?
first? You or Steve
No, definitely
Lombardi?
Steve Lombardi. I was after. Yeah, I was after the fact.
Okay.
So, but yeah, definitely. And there's been a handful. Dan Murphy from PWI, the writer, has actually even played it some here and there up our way. So a number of people have. It's almost like a Doink the Clown kind of gimmick, but usually it's not performed by somebody who's not working hand in hand with Kamala to some degree. You don't typically see the sidekick of Kamala running it solo somewhere. So usually it's a sanctioned other
Right.
guy under the mask, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, he lost both legs to diabetes. And I got to talking to him, and we decided to write his book. And we pitched it a few places, and much like a lot of mid card to headliner type wrestler from that era, the interest was there, but not to pay a whole lot out. So you're talking like you get 5-6 grand royalty up front, for the wrestler, and then royalty on each book. So they're not going to make a whole lot off of it, but they get a book and it's cool, and they can do signings and stuff. But I didn't think it was enough, so I kind of learned the whole publishing deal along with writing books, and also how to distribute it and the whole deal. And man, that first book made 60 grand or more for Kamala. So he made like 10 times the amount probably he would have if he had signed with a publisher. And what happened thereafter is other wrestlers, I talked to them, and we figured the formula would work again. So we did it for Bruce Beefcake. We did it for Danny Davis, the referee.
But but the interesting thing about this Kamala book, which I find really
Yeah.
interesting, is you help start the Kickstarter fund, so people would donate so they can get a book, and that helped cover Kamala's medical costs. Yeah.
Right. So the Kickstarter was the initial way that we figured we would attempt to collect the money for the actual print run, so we didn't have to pay anything out of pocket, and it worked. Actually, a bunch of the guys jumped in for it. So called Steve Austin let us plug it on his. We actually announced it on his podcast. Kamala was brought on to Piper's podcast at the time. And all kinds of people wrote forwards to it too as well. So all kinds of name power helped that easily pay for the print run, and then we distributed it through Kickstarter as rewards. And I also put up a website, and the website became a means to get autographed stuff, not just books, but also stuff from Kamala. It was Kamala Speaks. And then eventually, what you're looking at the bottom of the screen, WOHW, became my website to sell other books when I started writing other guys' books, where you could pick up stuff if you're interested in my projects. So yeah, pretty cool. It worked out pretty well.
It did, and you've written for, as you were saying before I interrupted, Brutus Beefcake,
Sure. Yeah,
Big Van Vader, Sabu,
yep.
Dangerous Danny Davis, Tito Santana, Bugsy McGraw, and I hear you're currently working on something for Sid.
True. So the bug, just on a second, Bugsy McGraw was in the middle of still putting out Big Van Vader's book and Sabu's, and I didn't have time to write it. So I had my buddy Ian Douglas write it, who also wrote Hornswoggle's book and Dan Severn's book. And he did a super bang up job with that. And I helped publish it basically. So I was the one that got it printed and out there. And now it's up on Amazon, and you can get it on various sites like below and all. So, yeah, so the Sid book, working on that right now. We're about 3 or 4 chapters in, maybe 50, 60 pages. So we got a little chunk of it done. On top of it, at the same time, though, I was also working on Just Incredible's book when Sid called. So I've got about half of that written, and it's not announced anywhere.
Wow.
But I'm also doing Bruce Pritchard's book, and we have about 250 pages on his. So his is getting there. His could come out soon, but the thing is they pulled him, to WWE right now, and he's so busy being like the what do we do during the whole pandemic thing stuff that we put his book on hold for a bit, and we'll get back to it probably maybe the end of the year or so. We'll start touching at it again. So So those three, I'm working at it all at the same time. So when I get different people that contact me with different ideas and stuff like that, it's tough for me to grab anything because I'm a number of months out. But I always try to help. I don't like to say no. If somebody contacts me and they have a book project, and if I can lead them in the right direction, I always try. We figured a lot out recently, so it helps.
Wow, we got a lot of people say just incredible. Was amazing, loved him. So you're gonna have someone buying that book for sure.
Yes, yeah, he's great. He, hey, how you doing? He pulls no punches for sure.
This is Reese Whittock. He's a
is that how you say it, Reese?
He's a Prince Harry look
from his mistakes with addictions. So the book, it would be pretty cool. It's not like a what do you call it? Kind of a fluff piece. So sure.
Okay, and on your website, the what does WOHW stand for?
Well, the funny thing is that I had a lot of hand in web design for all kinds of people for a number of years, making different websites and doing this and that. And the originally that stood for World of Hurt Wrestling, which still runs, but they have a different website. And when I started up, saying, you know what, now that I have Kamala's book, but I also have got Danny Davis and I've got Brutus Beefcakes, I should start to put together some site that's easy to go to and some kind of the acronym, and came up with Walking on Hot Waffles, which makes you think of walking on hot coals, which is hot, but waffles is still funny, and that's kind of what I try to do is mix the two worlds as far as experience wise, so people really experience something when they read a book through our site. So
Walking on Hot Waffles.
That's my publisher name now.
Oh, cool. That's amazing. That is just fantastic. And on your site, it says that most of the proceeds are going to actually the wrestlers instead of like the middleman or anything.
Right.
Yeah?
So there is no real middleman per se. Basically, what they're doing is they're learning through me how to self-publish to some degree, but it's a little bit more than self-publishing. I step a little further away from just there's an account. I can print books at a couple dollars a piece for $400 book because I have so many books out now. So it's advantageous for a wrestler to want to do a book with me because usually what happens, we split the books. I gave them half the load. They get half the load. Maybe they pay me a writer's fee, and then they pay me some kind of royalty. But it's not the case where I won't say a name, but a particular publisher did a book with somebody recently. I wonder if I'm still on here because I see he's gone.
Sorry.
Okay, there you are.
No, that was me.
Okay,
good.
So, but let's just say, for example, they might pay someone $2, $3, $4 up front, and then 25 cents off of each book. There's not a whole lot of money to be made there. But say that you print 2,000 books with me, and you autograph half of them, and I sell half of them. I mean, there's the potential to make maybe 80 grand off of our first print run of books or something like that. So the reason that this formula works, there's an author named Robert Friedman who wrote a book called The World is Flat. He's not a flat earther or anything like that. Basically what he is he's saying that you can compete these days if you know what you're doing with the big guys. So you could be a small guy in Indianapolis working out of your basement and have a product that only Walmart has. And now you're giving Walmart competition, but you don't have the overhead and the employees and the rent and the wages and the salaries and the insurance and all these other bills. So when you can put something out, if you do a good job and make a product that people want, they'll find you online now, or they'll find you on social media, or wherever you're plugging your wares, and you could outprice a big corporation like Walmart and produce a more solid product at the same time. So that's kind of the formula that I go for. I choose not to go with the big guys because they would take a bigger cut of the profit, but people find us on Amazon, which is equally a bookseller as Barnes & Noble. So if I put everything at Amazon, we'll now make 100 times more, on the book, a much bigger profit on the book than you would if you were to put it at Barnes & Noble's, where you have to first send a shipment of books, send you back any damaged type books. Once you have two hands in the pot, plus having to take returns like that, you'll make way less money. You'll make a couple books. You might sell more, but you'll make like
Wow.
a couple dollars on a book. Our formula now, wrestling fans being the tight, loyal, uh, ravished, hungry fan that they are for behind the scenes type stuff, right? They find the stuff the same as if you find it somewhere else, and we make more money by the by the placement of the sale of the book that we put it, rather than to dump it in Walmart and make $1 off of it. You see what I'm saying? So, plus the
Yeah.
wrestlers, when I set the books up, I make them a website where they now have a means to sell their stuff, autographed, appearance type stuff that people can't make it to, right online virtually. They'll sign the book and send it out to you, and now they get the full $35 off a book. Maybe $25 a book plus $10 autograph, versus making $1 from Barnes and Nobles, if that makes sense. I'm really generalizing here, but I'm trying to make it easy to understand. So,
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's more beneficial for the wrestlers.
Right.
Then when they go to cons, they can bring their own books,
Yep.
and everything's right there.
Yeah, and typically that's part of the
perfect.
deal. Usually I send them half the books. I get the other half the books. I may owe them a little bit for my half. I usually give them a higher split. We might do like a 60-40 or whatever, or something like that. But still, for them to make 60%, whereas they would have before made less than 10% off of a book, they might make like 4% or something if they go with certain publishers. Seems to be a good deal. So again, what I'm doing basically is I'm teaching them how to self-publish and also help them with distribution and also writing the book. So I'm kind of a one-man show. So if you see a spelling error here and there, man, I apologize because I'm doing it all and I'm running crazy, but we try to make it as quality as we can.
Okay, so when I read Sid's book and there's a couple spelling mistakes, I'm not going to go yell at him. Okay. I'm just going to come to you.
Definitely just kayfabe it because one of us is getting power bombed.
For sure. Oh my gosh, that's great. You just like revolutionized spelling now. Great.
The innovator of spelling happens here and there.
Right? For sure. Okay, someone's got a question here, Jay Crawford. It's with this writing for wrestling, rather write for retired wrestlers, or let's say if Triple H came to you and said, write one, would you do one for him?
Oh, sure. Yeah, they don't have to be retired. I mean, I tend to lean toward projects that I either worked with the guys a lot and know a lot about them already, or worked in the same area as them. But I'd have absolutely no problem with doing like the Kenny Omega book, or or something that somebody who's out there today, or something like say Cody Rhodes book or something like that. I definitely would do that. Part of the reason why I go with the retired stuff typically is that the guys who are still wrestling on TV per se are usually, if we're talking WWE anyhow, they're not even permitted to write some kind of book on their own. Everything goes through WWE. Oh. So they get, and guys who have recently left WWE are quite often under a Legends contract and also bound to some restrictions as far as what they can do. Because what will happen is they'll sign a contract with a retired wrestler. The wrestler will get royalties and all for allowing their likeness to be on video games and in various different places. But then they have to get special permission if they want to write a book by WWE, because WWE is holding their license for particular different things. And they've done that, though. WWE's been cool. Like, they let Brutus write a book with me. They let Vader, who had a Legends contract at the time, write with me. So they don't say no. They only usually say no when they have no plans to do one for themselves. So they're usually pretty decent about it. Yeah. But then again, they probably would not let me write the Seth Rollins book, because they might want to do a Seth Rollins book soon or later on down the road, because he's one of their more top guys. Any books would I like to do? Any books would I like to do? Yeah. I say, who I think has a book in him that'd be real good? And I've hit him up a couple times. Two guys, actually. One is Papa Pump. I think that Scott Steiner would have an awesome story, because he used to haze guys, and he was a river, and he did a solo career and a tag career, and he was in WWF and also NWA, WCW. He's all around. So I think he'd be good. And I also think Jeff Jarrett has an awesome book in him. And him and I have sent goofy messages back and forth to each other a lot over the years. So I think that could happen one day, actually. The Jeff Jarrett might one day if I keep on him. So those are two that come to mind. Yep. Good guys.
That's pretty cool. And all your books can be reached at your website here, correct?
Sure. Yep. Yeah, for the most part. But I always say to jump to the actual wrestler site first if you're like a collector and you want to get like that autographed or that personal thing. And I'm the webmaster of those sites as well. So if you wanted Sabu's book autographed, you would go to like ECW Sabu and you could see his t-shirts and everything there. But he also has my book with him, that we wrote together, and he'll sign it. And then, again, he gets his portion of the deal. He gets the full $35 goes straight to Sabu, which is nothing you could say for publishers don't typically work that way. But he has stock, and he'll mail them out. He'll put them in the book himself, autographs them, send it out, and it helps the guys a lot, especially guys like that, who are in the twilight of their career and thrive off of appearances and autograph signings and merchandise.
Wow, man, thanks a lot. That's a lot of respect to you for doing that for your fellow wrestlers, man. That's just fantastic.
Sure. Yeah,
Now, our next topic is COVID Con 2020, Bookmark Wrestling. You co-created that. What gave you the idea?
So the idea actually came from a guy named John Cosper, who wrote Tracy Smothers' book and Madman Pondo's book. And I'm just trying to think of the names. He wrote a book called Bluegrass Brawlers and David Schultz's book. That's right, David Schultz's book. So he writes me one day, I'm trying to think, maybe it was in April sometime. He just says, "Hey, check this out." And he sends me a screenshot. And some college was doing a book fair on Zoom. So pretty much you would, if you went to the school or what have you, you probably saw the poster and you could go, but you'd have to have the code and this and that. And he's like, "You think we could do something like this for wrestling authors?" And I looked it over and I'm like, hold my beer. And I just went nuts with it because it gave me a project. It gave me something to do. And we set up a 2 full day first ever virtual wrestling convention where I booked 90% of the people that you saw there, all wrestling authors, all wrestling historians, or wrestlers themselves. And John Cosper helped quite a bit, like here and there. He threw in names and stuff, and it was great. But he was still trying to polish off. He was finishing a book. I think it's Scott Romer's book, but he was finishing manuscript. So pretty much it was all on me. My wife hated this because like it was constantly like just contacting people. Can you do this? Okay, this is how it works. This is how, cut a little video, or this is how you use this software. Same software we're using now. And then when the actual event came, it was like, how do I explain it? I was on with your buddy, what we called Rob the Slob. We gave him a gimmick for the day. Robert Bellamy, who does Sid's podcast, and also Ed Bratz. And basically, I'm texting them saying, "Okay, I've got the next guy ready. He's coming in, or he's not ready. Stall." And I did that all day. So for those two guys that ran 8-hour shifts, twice on Saturday and Sunday, I was on the whole time in between, like lining up the guys constantly, because the gimmick was this: there's a new guy in every 30 minutes. And 30 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but to hunt down the next guy and get him situated and explain what he needs to do and troubleshoot, and then get him up and going and then jump to the next guy. By the time I had the one guy done, I was already jumping to the next guy. So it was crazy. Yeah, thank you, James. Good fun. It was good fun. Tiring. I'm still tired, but yeah, it was it was a good time.
Yeah, I came in when I heard Rob was doing it. I jumped in to help him out.
Yep.
I did most of the research for him. I looked up everybody I had there. Half the people I didn't hear about until I did my research. And yourself is like, oh my gosh, you've got this awesome resume yourself. Oh, I found out you're
Thanks.
running the show. That was even bonus.
Yeah, you did a
And
good job
when I
that night
first
with
went to take over
research.
for Rob,
Oh yeah, because everybody
yeah,
was
I find out
Rob
what's
was very
interesting to
well
me.
informed. Yeah, good job. Yeah, good job.
Thanks. I'm a fan, so I'm kind of curious as to this is interesting. Let's do it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
ask it. And sadly, I had bad luck when I went in there because I took over for Rob, and that's when we couldn't get Patricia's audio, and
Oh
I'm
yeah,
stuck
yeah,
without knowing the equipment. He taught me the
yeah,
basics, so I'm like, uh, uh, stall.
yeah.
It is
We had
bad,
another
but
guy though. There didn't we have Scott Stevens was in there too, so that was able to save the segment. That there was still she had two people in that interview, so the one guy was able to continue, right? As I recall.
now
Oops, sorry.
we kind of got her back the next day, and we did an after
Yeah,
party,
that's right. Yep. So good deal on that.
so it turned out well.
Yep. And you can get that now on Fight TV still on demand, or Eddie just got it up to YouTube. We got a YouTube channel going, and he time stamped everything so people can jump right to the segment they want to see, which is crucial because each day was like 16. So, like, there's something like 35 hours of programming there, plus some bonus stuff. So, there's a lot of stuff. So, we threw it all up there, and we will
On
have a
which
custom
site?
URL soon. If you go to the YouTube site right now, it will be youtube.com/wrestling bookmarks. And that's the name of the little kind of group that we put together to make COVID Con happen. Wrestling bookmarks, which is a play on word because they're people who are marks for books for the most part. So, but don't tell anybody.
I thought
That's the
it's because
fun
you had a
part.
lot of authors.
Yeah.
But you have another one coming up, don't you?
Yeah. So
Or you're
this.
planning?
Yes, we're going to do a planning thing tomorrow night. We might have a couple guests jump in for that. And then in June, second week of June or so, we'll try to do like a mini version. I think we call it like a COVID Con Light. We'll do like 6, maybe 8 hours or something with whoever is interested. We're going to kind of do a little screening process right online and take down information, see who knows who, and try to get together some neat stuff for mid-June. It won't be a double shot like it was the first time around. That was crazy, but it'll be the same kind of format. We'll probably go every 30 minutes, maybe a little longer than that, and have something like 6 to 10 guests or something this time. Instead of 60, we'll do a smaller, more manageable one. But it'll be fun. It'll be good.
Yeah, you got like some fantastic people like DDT,
Sure.
Coco
Yep.
Beware. The Hurricane showed up
Yeah, yeah.
out of the blue.
Yeah.
Fred Ottman, you had Gilbert showed up during that interview. That was amazing.
That's funny, man. Like, so I really saw that what was working for that, and that's what I thought was surprise stuff was always fun to just dump someone in. And just like the Royal Rumble, that's what people like. They wanted to be surprised. So a couple of guys like Gilbert, I contacted on the fly and said, "Hey, we got this thing going on right now. Can you just click on and would a camera work?" And he's like, "Okay." So I just threw him in for no reason at all other than to have a run in on Typhoon and Bushwhacker
Butch.
Luke, right? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Luke.
So then you had 3 of those guys in there, and he's in there for a bit. And then when he left, who else jumped in? Coco jumped in. So like, we just had different random people jumping in, and you got to be a fly on the wall as a fan, and you could also ask questions. And that was the big thing too, by the way, is what we're doing right now is podcast like we're talking a bit. It's video, and we also have the question down at the bottom. The thing that I really wanted to push for, and that's what's neat about this program, by the way. But the thing I really wanted to push for was to take as many questions as possible and to make it like the panels at a Comic-Con, because there hadn't been in the past much of that. And since this is a new software that people are just starting to use, and I would even venture to guess COVID Con pushed the software into the wrestling community, and I'm seeing more and more people use it now. Maybe because we really went crazy with it, showed everyone how it worked and exists. So now people are using it. Maybe even like yourself. I'm not sure how much you used it before us, but other people like you, other people like you became exposed to the potential and easy to do. Interviews like this with questions that maybe we'll take a little credit for that. And basically that was mostly Rob. I saw how Rob did it, and I saw how Ed was using it somewhere else when he interviewed me, and I introduced the two of them and said, can you make a seamless production here that we can put up with Fight TV and the whole deal, and put on Facebook and solicit questions and really push to grab questions? And they both said yes, and that's how it came to be. And super job to both of them. I think hats off to them.
Yeah, and you two for organizing it. That just went amazing. As a fan, I was like happy. I was also glad to be part of it, even though it was like all the research, and that's a lot of hard work too as well.
Yeah.
And I'm being distracted by someone here. So go away. My little dog, he's trying to eat. Oh, not really, but get away, Fido. No, really.
That's impressive.
Sorry. I love dogs. I got one stuffed on each side of my mantle. But thanks, John. Fuck off. Okay, seriously, that was uncalled for. But I call my dog John.
Very nice.
No, I'm sorry. I was just I'm gonna kick his ass later. The dog, yes. He's a fighter. He's bigger than me. He can take a lot. Train him in wrestling. I'm really digging myself in a hole, aren't I? Okay. Now the COVID Con. Yeah, thanks for bringing this and this platform you got here. This program, we're using it. A lot of my friends see me talking to people, and they're using it.
Yeah.
I also use it not to go live. Sometimes just to talk to people one-on-one. It's a lot quicker than texting and typing.
There you go. All right. Cool.
It's like, hey, you want to talk about something? So we just go on live stream, but we don't go live, of course. And we just talk about shit like straight up. It's a lot more convenient.
Huh. Cool.
So you are still an innovator, my friend. You're still doing it.
Well, it's not my software, but I just thought it worked well for what we needed. And I think other people are now learning that. So we might have opened some eyes, but there were some people doing it before us too. So that's how I found Rob actually doing it and Ed. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I learned from it, because Rob started practicing a little bit, doing one-on-one interviews. And then we found out you can get 6 people on if you really needed to. Yeah. He really was working his butt off to try and get everything going, getting the logos up here and whatnot.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah. So I learned fast. And
so yeah, if you continue to use it, I don't know if you noticed with COVID Con, but let me see if I'm looking the right. So over here, right up in this area, you can put a logo. So it'd be kind of neat to maybe take your face and cut it out, the Dr. Steve-O head, and maybe put the logo right up. Yeah, like that. There it is. So
I got 2 different logos I'm using.
There, did you just?
That was there the whole time.
Okay, so I moved.
No, that was there the whole time.
Was it? I moved down my finger and I was able to see what I couldn't see before. So I changed my device in order to see it. Now I see it. Cool. Awesome.
And if I wanted to, I could put live with Dr. Steve there, or
cool.
And put your and of course I've got your name, your website scrolling at the bottom.
Yeah, so that site down there on the bottom, KennyCasanova.com, that shows a little bit of my wrestling, a little bit of my writing, and also my DJ. So basically you go there are 3 circles, you click the button and it brings you over to what I do, because it's tough. I'm also an English teacher, which gave me the writing.
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, I'm also an English teacher. So earlier than this, I was teaching classes, with the whole pandemic here. Daily, I have kids on class a couple times. Typically I have maybe one at a 10, 11, or 12, and I meet with the kids for like 45 minutes and we go over assignments and stuff like that. So I'm still doing that. I'm a 12th grade English teacher in upstate New York, where it's kind of hit hard. The whole COVID thing, New York's a mess, but we're making the best of it. And I've also trained all of our teachers how to use a lot, not all of them, but a big handful of them, how to use software like what we're using right now in order to make this stuff happen. And they all really jumped up and stepped up to the plate. And our teachers are to, also be hats off to for their hard work, doing a super job. So,
well, way to go! Also a teacher as well. So if everything else falls through, you still got that going.
Yeah.
How do your students feel that like you're all these wrestlers are big scary guys, or you're involved in this industry, or do they know?
It's funny. Some do. It usually gets leaked. But the thing is that it's not. We're not really in the Hulk Hogan era right now. We're not really in the Attitude Era. It's cyclical, right? So it's up and down, up and down. I would even venture to say that John Cena at his heyday was probably what would you call it, the PG era or whatever. That he might have been the next one. Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, and The Rock, and then Cena. There isn't that next guy, and they need to make a next guy. Even though I've heard Triple H say, how does he word it? There'll never be another marquee wrestler is his direct quote. They want to make everything 50-50 booking, and when you watch a show, you're watching to see WWE. You're not watching to see Steve Austin or The Rock or Hulk Hogan or Savage or whoever. But as you can tell, when they always fall back on a pay-per-view or like these things over in Saudi Arabia or wherever they're going, they bring in the old-time names. Now, eventually those guys are going to go away. And if they don't have someone to replace them with, you're basically replacing them with one of the Beverly Brothers, but today's version, if everybody's 50-50, so who wants to see one of the Beverly Brothers? I mean, Bo is my favorite Beverly brother. What's your favorite Beverly brother, by the way? You must have one.
I was a lot younger. They were kind of like both the same. They're just like bad guys. At that time, I didn't like heels. I was like good guys, like, yo, Tito, yeah, hell with the Beverly Brothers. Killer Bees, yay.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, when you step back and look, they definitely got to come up with if they push Braun Strowman and he's doing a good job, and they did for a little bit, but then they pull back and make him lose some, then they start to lose that potential to make that big superstar again. I know why they do it. They don't want to have to pay that big superstar again. It makes total sense, but definitely keep making them, because right now, I'm going to jump back around to that question. The students in class, you have maybe in a class of 20 kids, I might have one or two marks here or there, and not every even class. Some classes say, "Oh, I like UFC," and they're not into the wrestling and stuff. So we're down in the low point right now, and that's evident with ratings. But if they were to make another big guy, then I could imagine I could be in a class, in a few years or something, where they'd be like, "Oh, he's in the wrestling. Oh, do you know The Rock, or do you know whoever the new Rock is?" And so back in the day, I had to kind of kayfabe a little bit here and there so I could get kids to do work. You know what I mean? But now that the ratings are down a little bit, I don't have to worry about it as much as I did in the past. They just go, "He likes the pro wrestling, the fake stuff," and then they just kind of mock me a little bit, like they would mock me anyhow. Just gives them another reason.
Kids, yeah, that's all right. Okay, we've done an hour. If you want to give me your opinion on the new product now they've got no fans.
Yeah, that seems to be the regular question now, right? And so I'll tell you this: AEW, I think they're doing it the right way. They put a few guys around the ring. They make excitement. There's some noise. And whether or not they are using audio enhancers, they call it. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a little pipe in a little bit of extra noise. You know, I think they might do that. I think they might tape a little bit beforehand, have everybody yell, make some crazy noise, and then loop that in when they need to. If that's what they're doing, then I don't care, because I don't notice it while it's happening, and it sounds good to me.
Right.
If they have only 20 people that are around the ring, it may sound to me more like there's 150 around that ring or so, and maybe they're cheating, but by all means cheat, because it creates the excitement and the energy that's needed, for not only the wrestlers to perform better in the ring, but also, the product looks good. AEW. When I watch WWE now, man, that quiet working in the silence, that's just not what I grew up with. So it's really not my cup of tea. And I can't wait till they get back to just the regular, fan reaction. It doesn't have to be them hijacking the show, but that's always made for some funny moments when they chant and, and people get on to, some kind of,
for sure.
There's just none of that now. And it's too old school, all Japan, just applause or no sound at all. It just kills me. Just have no sound at all.
On the last pay-per-view, the first match that had Bayley versus Tamina, Sasha Banks was, in Bayley's corner. and she cheered for, Bailey, and she booed for
Yep.
Tamina. That was the closest I felt to actually being with a live crowd.
Yeah,
We need
yeah.
more of that. You're correct.
So, and I'll tell you too. So, from independent wrestling, quite often you'll be working a show that won't have that many people at it, and some indie guys are more prepared for how to deal with a situation where there is a lack of crowd at all. They're just totally silent, and they are also more prepared for the idea that what you say in the ring while you're working one of these no sound, no audience type shows can be part of your storytelling if you do it correctly, and more fun, and also that people could hear it. But WWE, I don't think they at the beginning had experience with that, because it was very evident the first few weeks that they had these no audience, that um, they didn't want to say anything. They were afraid that if they said something, that we would hear it. And now they're starting to just work into, I'm going to get you, and they're like selling it more, and you hear a little bit of passion from the wrestlers, a little bit more than they had. And they're starting to get there.
Right.
But they didn't have the experience. A lot of them came right out of the school. Some of them did, definitely, for sure. But you could see the ones that did, and the ones that didn't, I think. But still, the no sound from the audience, don't like it. And I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah, I hear you. That's kind of tough, man. I feel bad for Drew McIntyre, because when he finally beat, I mean, the pop should have been deafening, but it was like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So it's a different type of
So yeah,
now.
Yeah, I feel
For sure.
for him, because I know what it's like. I've been in the ring announcing stalling when it's dead, or between matches and stuff. It's not a fun thing. It totally isn't.
But it'll get fixed.
But
what I mean?
thanks a
They're
lot.
doing the best they can.
Yep. For sure, for sure. Oh, and I'm happy that they are. They're putting out a product for us in this time, and I still think that's a good thing.
Yep.
I'm one of the few people that's really happy about it. I'm just sad they don't have a crowd. But
yeah, I mean, you only got wrestling, and you got what? Tiger King and Ozark, and that's about it right now. And maybe Scooby Doo's new movie, and that's all we can see.
But I haven't done the Tiger King yet. I'm gonna hold off for a while.
I don't blame you.
I'm enjoying the dark side of the ring now.
All right, okay, I'll get back to that. I've watched some episodes of that, and I really liked it. Like the Bruiser Brody was really good. I like the Screwjob episode. I haven't seen a whole lot of the new season, but it's been taping it, so I'll see it soon.
The Dr. David Schultz is great. The Legion of Doom, which just came on, fantastic.
That was good. Okay.
They're doing a good job with all of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the bonus about the Legion of Doom.
I hope they do a Kamala. I've heard some people ask, and I think if they do, I would probably make an appearance, being as I'm the author. So maybe I would get a little more 15-minute of fame in there. Nice.
Well, I hope so. Most of the back stuff is shot here in Toronto, so it's a lot of our local wrestlers that are being used in the background.
Nice. Okay.
My buddy Rob Rage played Hawk. I mean, he's built just like him, and he also made appearances as Hulk Hogan, because they taped pieces of hair to his head and made him make Hogan look good.
So
I'm gonna have an interview with him next week.
Being as you're over in Toronto, did you ever work some with Ron Hutchinson? Do you know that name?
I've heard the name, but
no. Okay. He was out that way. This was many years ago. He was the one who kind of trained like Trish Stratus and Edge and Christian and some of those guys. So this probably predates you a little bit, because I'm old now.
No, I'm about the same age. I just wasn't involved in that industry at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
I was still a fan, not knowing anything about it. Like, oh yay, could be real, could not be real. I don't know. It's awesome.
So let me ask you this: if you watched some of COVID Con, what did you like from it? I just curious from that, because it's still fresh in my head.
I liked it when the wrestlers got together with their buddies and they just start talking about old times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice, and it's not forced. Like if you ask a question, right, and someone's uncomfortable, but these are people that connect really well, and everything just flows well, and you can even see in their faces the good times they had.
Right.
So that's what I kind of like. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yep.
And some of the surprises we had, like the gentleman that used to write for Pro Wrestling Illustrated, he showed us his dungeon. That was amazing.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yep. Yeah.
Bill Apter, right? That was him.
Yep. Well, he wrote Bill Apter. He wrote the Apter mags, so they weren't PWI, but they were all the other ones. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So there were a lot of neat little guests, like sleeper guests that you didn't really know who they were, and I had found them just from following different Facebook groups and stuff. And I picked a few of those out. Like there was a guy from Austria who was really cool. His name was Journo Freeberg, and there was another guy who specialized on Wildman Dave McKigney, and his name was Wes, who is sort of putting the book together because I've been nudging him to do so. And that the guy Dave McKigney, as maybe you may or may not know, is a Canadian promoter who back in the day would take the grizzly bears and the big circus bears and bring them around and make wrestlers wrestle bears in the ring for his promotion and other promotions. So he had a number of cool stories. So yeah, there were some really like weird guests that we found like that that you wouldn't think to put on, and I wanted them to because I knew they had a story to tell, and I was super happy with those guys too. So cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you had a lot of good guests. I'm happy with all of them. Even when I was doing the research, I wasn't expecting it, but wow.
Yeah, good fun.
Fantastic.
Yep.
You good job with that.
Well, thank you.
I look forward to the next one, and hopefully I'll be helping Rob with it, and because I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm still a big wrestling fan.
That'd be great. Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks for your time. I totally appreciate that. I found out more about you and your books and the walking on hot waffles.
So now you know the history on the name.
Yeah.
There it is.
World of Hurt Wrestling as well.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot. And I will let people know when the next COVID or COVID mini con shows up. I'll be sharing that with all my fans and friends.
Sounds good.
And I hope to work with you.
Sure. Sounds good to me. Thanks, sir.
Hold on.
Yep.
Anything you want to say to the fans out there?
I guess you can find me on Twitter at Kenny Casanova. Facebook Kenny Casanova. I'm so old that like I got my name down before anyone else could get it. So you know. You can find me on all the platforms pretty much as Kenny Casanova, and we're good to go.
Oh, cool. Thanks a lot.
Right, thank you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. That's your trademark look. That was Kenny Casanova. He's a icon in the wrestling industry up in upstate New York. All right, thanks a lot. Again, the Dr. Steve will show. Have a good one. Ciao. Bye-bye. Take care.